So excited to be with you today. During this continued time of uncertainty and needing to pivot to ensure we can drive NAF's mission forward, our educators can have truly been our superstars. We thank you for your dedication, perseverance, passion for making this world a better place, and your tenacity in not backing down from any difficulty. The Janet Linton Leadership Award was created in 2006 to honor outstanding Academy directors and educational leaders. Today, we are honored to recognize our three Janet Linton Leadership Award winners for 2021 and shine a spotlight on their achievements. Our first winner is Dr. Elizabeth Aguila, the Academy of Education lead teacher at Hialeah Gardens High School, the first NAF Distinguished Academy of Education in the country. She has helped to build the program from the ground up and has encouraged students to explore and learn about the teaching profession. Congratulations, Elizabeth. Next, we are proud to celebrate Jayme FITZPATRICK. Jayme is Manager, Career and Technical Education at Deer Valley Unified School District in Phoenix, Arizona. She has spearheaded a growth of new programs, including adding the Academy of Entrepreneurship, expanding coding, 3D animation programs, creating a fine culinary arts experience for Academy of Hospitality and Tourism, and much more. She is also instrumental in advocating for internships, creating and working with the advisory board, and planning and promoting hiring events and career days. Congratulations, Jayme. Our third recipient is Eric RADOMSKI. Eric is the Manager, Career Technical Education, Milwaukee Public Schools, MPS. His work has helped to increase the number of NAF students in MPS with a 60% growth rate from 2016 to 2021. Eric was also an early adopter of NAF for MPS CTE and is passionate about ensuring equity and advancing hands-on and project-based learning and amplifying internships. Congratulations, Eric. Let's give our 2021 Janet Linton Leadership Award winners another round of applause to thank them for everything they do. All right, I am excited now. This is the part I've been waiting for. I'm excited to engage our winners for a special panel. You will have the chance to hear from them directly about how they have navigated these challenging times, as well as their vision for post-COVID schools. Welcome, panel. So let's get right to it with the first question. And I'm going to ask Elizabeth to respond to this first, then we'll go to Jayme and Eric. But this year was unlike any other, and our educators truly moved gracefully through uncharted territory. Talk about what allowed you to adapt and pivot quickly, Elizabeth.
Thank you, Brenda. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here. I just want to talk about, we sprung into action. When this happened, we already kind of had an abrupt end of our previous school year. So our learning support team at our school, we had to make decisions and adapt quickly to prepare the teachers for the next school year. We contacted virtual teachers that we knew that taught in college, that taught in high school, and we started to realize all the things that we didn't know. So we gave our teachers a survey, and we used this survey to create the CARE protocol. We prepared the beginning of the year professional development with workshops on how to communicate, accommodate, relate, and empower. And this protocol really helped us create goals and create an action plan for the rest of the school year.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Jayme, I'm going to give you an opportunity to weigh in on this question. How did you pivot so quickly and how did you adopt?
Thank you, Brenda, and thank you, NAF, for having me this morning. The ability to move gracefully through these uncharted waters of 2020-21 was the strong leadership and collaboration in my school district for me. As a district administrator, I was able to be a part of the return to school and the return to work teams focused on learning and safety. Our superintendent, Dr. Curtis Finch, was a strong influencer in Phoenix and Arizona education consortiums in making positive changes. This allowed us to move quickly, establish processes, and return our students to in-person learning by late September of 2020, while providing strong support for our remote learners and students and staff that may have been in quarantine. This ability to be in person for the better part of the school year was huge in making us a trailblazer in Arizona and in the nation for returning kids to school.
Yeah, that was really impressive. Getting the students back face to face, beginning in September through the end of the school year. Congratulations to you and your district. Eric, want to get your voice in here. Talk about this uncharted territory and how you pivoted so quickly.
Thank you, Brenda, and thank you, NAF. I don't know that I actually did adapt and pivot too quickly. There was definitely a prolonged time of uncertainty, particularly for the first couple of months we were shut down, and we were shut down for the entire year up until the last 5 weeks, 6 weeks of school this year. So when we did make that adjustment and realized things would be different for a while, I think having been around a long time helped out a lot. So there's definitely something to be said for longevity and just knowing, who to contact and where to get help. I think the fact that our CTE office is in regular communication with our teachers really helped. And like Liz, we really didn't know, especially at first, what our teachers needed. So, we reached out and just asked, what do you need? What can we do for you? What can we buy for you that will support you? And we just listened and acted. So we bought different types of software and some virtual tools, cameras, tripods, and other resources that would help us to make the pivot. But it did take some time, and it was really completed last summer, more for the start of this past school year. I do remember in March that we did some professional development on Google Classroom, which was the tool that our teachers really leaned on this past school year. A lot of our teachers were comfortable with it, but many were not. So that was a good PD. And the fact that we already had a strong work readiness program in place prior to the pandemic really enabled us to make the transition to virtual a lot easier. We maintained the program that we had as best we could. We provided work readiness sessions, industry panel discussions twice a month, and mock interview sessions once a month, and work together with our CTE office to figure out what that would look like. So I do want to give a big shout out to Tamara and Emily from our office who really made that happen, and they did a great job with it. And of course, having great partners who are ready to help with providing those sessions allowed us to make that transition a lot more seamless.
Wow, it sounds like you really did maximize and pull on all of your resources, and you reacted to change productively, and that is commendable. Let's talk about positive lessons that you've learned during this time, specific to teaching remotely. What were some of the biggest challenges of teaching remotely, and what were you most surprised about? And let's start with Jayme.
Brenda, there were many challenges. As an administrator, I came to quickly empathize with our teachers and our students, especially our students. This was very difficult for them. And our teachers quickly came to put student needs first and address those needs on a case-by-case basis, and most of all, were flexible. They were teaching in person and remotely simultaneously, which was a huge challenge. The challenges came in keeping to the high standards in career and technical education, as well as our district, and keeping as much continuity as possible in learning, providing technology, materials, and work-based learning opportunities. Providing added supports was so important. I was most surprised by how proficient and skilled our teachers had become by the middle of the year. It had just become natural. It was just what they do. And the students were happily compliant with the restrictions, with being able to come back in person and network with their peers, even though they might have been wearing masks or working in smaller groups. But they appreciated that opportunity, yet they were also given high quality opportunities if they chose to be remote learners as well. And it was a challenge, but we did it.
Awesome, awesome. Eric, how would you respond to that? Let's talk about some of the biggest challenges and what most surprised you.
Well, besides being told you're on mute or telling somebody else they're on mute, I would say student engagement was definitely the biggest challenge. So I don't teach anymore, but I was able to assist with some classroom projects from time to time throughout the year. And from my perspective, I would say a huge challenge was getting students to turn their cameras on, turn their mics on, and participate in that virtual environment. And it was really difficult not to be able to see the students or receive feedback instantly like you would in the classroom. And in terms of most surprised, I would say attendance at meetings really improved. That was a big surprise, whether it was with our teachers or our partners. And I think what surprised me was that, at least at first, was that people actually really seemed to like the flexibility and time-saving nature of remote meetings.
Yeah. I've also heard that student engagement was really challenging during this remote learning. Thank you for calling that out. I'm sure there are folks agreeing with you right now. Elizabeth, biggest challenges and surprises to this remote learning.
So I was really, really encouraged by teachers stepping out of their comfort zone and being so willing to change their teacher identity to meet the needs of the students. Teacher identity is something that's not easily changed, especially for teachers who have been teaching for a while. Growing from a teacher who seldomly uses technology to a teacher that must was very difficult for some. But I was surprised and so happy to see the level of adjustment, not only for teachers, but for students as well. By the end of the year, we were all growing and learning and teaching together, and that was so encouraging. The biggest challenge for me personally was actually an emotional one, not feeling connected to our students, watching students struggle and not being able to walk behind them, put your hand on their shoulder and say, what do you need? How can I help? Was really difficult for me. Not feeling that they were in my reach.
Yeah. What tools did you all use to implement to continue moving forward as you continue to think about returning in person? And what would you be happy to leave behind? So what tools did you implement? And then what will you be happy to leave behind? We'll start with Eric.
All right, thanks, Brenda. I know we'll continue to use the virtual meeting platforms, and hopefully we'll hone in on one, whether it's Zoom or Teams or something else, but I'm also going to be glad to see them used more sparingly in the future, for sure. I think we'll continue to use Google Classroom. Was somewhat used pre-pandemic, but now it's a staple that all of our teachers are using. And I think we'll continue to use it from our Career and Tech Ed office centrally as a resource for students and teachers to access videos and links and other important information whenever they'd like. And then in terms of specific technology tools, Replit is one that enables our students to code in all different languages through their browser, and it works with Chromebooks, which we've provided to all of our students. And then another would be Onshape, which is a software that enabled our robotics and our engineering students to work on their design projects from home on whatever device they had. And it had the functionality to have students to be able to work in teams or independently, and then share and get instant feedback from their teachers or their colleagues. And in terms of leaving behind, I think just probably what everybody thinks, just the lack of face-to-face interaction. I'll be really happy to leave behind the virtual meetings with those meetings we have with people right in the next office or across the hall, and we'll be able to get back together face-to-face.
Yeah. I'm sure that most people would love to start engaging and get from in front of these cameras. Jayme, how would you respond to this? Want to get your voice in here as well. And talk about the tools and what would you be happy to leave behind?
Alrighty. One of the tools that I think we'll use going forward is our implementation of virtual advisory board meetings. We'll do a hybrid this year of both virtual and in person. We were able to engage large numbers of business partners across all of our programs. Folks like Marriott, Hilton, Apple, Albertsons, local media outlets, and post-secondary institutions like ASU and Grand Canyon University. So we were grateful for those virtual advisory board meetings. It really made it easy for our community to engage with us. We implemented a program lead teacher positions, 6 teachers that took leadership in their industry and content areas, and those teachers will continue in those roles going forward. And we were able to develop a plethora of professional skills and career-focused learning management system modules that our teachers will be able to modify and use as we go forward. And lastly, our sound safety and sanitation procedures that we'll use in our environments as we return our full population of students to campuses. Oh, and I think one more I forgot to mention was virtual internships. We were very grateful to continue keeping our internship program running through those virtual internships, and we'll keep that in combination with our in-person internships for the new school year. Some things we're happy to leave behind, however, are virtual professional development, and many, but not all, virtual meetings and things like virtual student competitions or field trips. Those are things that we're excited to see happen in person, get that collaboration and that face-to-face time as we move into the post-COVID world.
Awesome. Thank you for calling out the virtual internships. I've also been hearing that districts have really been able to engage students in these opportunities across the board, and employers have been more than willing to engage in these virtual internships. Elizabeth, let's get your voice in here on this question on tools that you've implemented and what you will use moving forward and what you want to leave behind.
So this was the year of the tools. We had tools. We didn't even know what to do with so many tools. But the great thing is that we also were able to experiment with different things this year and kind of determine, what do we want to keep and what is too much work, or maybe it doesn't really fit into our curriculum. One of the things that I see myself using in the future is being able to record a lesson. And making it available for students to watch again. I don't know how I'm going to do that when we go back, but it was such a great thing to have for our students and our lowest quartile students, because they're able to rewatch directions to a project or maybe some content that they may have missed for different reasons. So that's something I definitely think I'll use again. Technology like Nearpod, Teams, Flipgrid, these were lifesavers. Just to be organized, to communicate with students, and to just get our content out there. These are things that I'm definitely going to continue to use. Echoing Jayme and Eric, I feel like, leaving these screens behind, maybe not totally, because there are some things that we do that they already mentioned, we do take advantage of, but I definitely can't wait to be more face-to-face.
Awesome. Elizabeth, continuing with you, how do you envision education changing in post-COVID and in the post-COVID environment, and what support will students need?
I think that teachers surprise themselves, and I'm hoping that they will be more willing to try new strategies and teaching styles. I also think that teachers leaned on each other more, not only for emotional strength, but for professional survival. I think this experience will push new research about virtual learning, teacher identity, and professional development. I also want to mention that there's something to be said about what is working in education. The fact that teachers love their students has never been clearer. The care parents showed to ensure that their children are getting the best education, and the new opportunities that have been available for from states, districts, and school administration, these have all been wins this year.
Yeah, we had a chance to talk earlier, and you talked about emotional support. Could you talk about the importance of that emotional support for our students?
Yes, I think it is so important to still emotionally connect with these kids, let them know, maybe meet with them in breakout rooms and say, what's going on? I see that you haven't turned in some activities or some projects. So making sure to connect with students virtually was a challenge. We had to definitely figure out our school resources, our district-wide resources to make this happen.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jayme. And then we'll go to Eric. We are getting to the end of our panel discussion, but let's want you to weigh in on this question, Jayme.
Yeah. So this is a complex question. As the post-COVID environment's changing very rapidly, students will forever be expected to learn and work in a hybrid environment and expected to possess the skills needed for both. To some extent, teachers and administrators will need to do this as well. It will become harder to recruit and retain good educators. Education will need to change quickly to keep up with workforce's changing demands. Things in the post-COVID environment will start to move faster. Students will need support in developing skills that are sought after, skills that are transferable, and skills that are focused on problem solving. And that's what we're here to do, to help the students accomplish those things.
Thank you. Thank you. And Eric?
Yes,
On
well,
this
like
question?
Jayme, sure. Like Jayme, I think we'll definitely end up seeing some sort of blended classroom with both face-to-face and virtual components. I think everyone's become much more comfortable with technology, and we'll end up finding some kind of common ground that'll be more efficient and effective. And to that end, I would envision a much more flexible environment for K-12, where there could be more choice about where the work gets done. And I think school building setups might look a little different in the future, maybe more open spaces with comfortable furniture like many of our colleges have for students to be able to work from. So, sort of like a remote work location while still being physical in the building. And I think the fact so many students were forced to wrestle with remote learning made a lot of them adept at it. And that could open up the door for more opportunities to take classes offered at other schools, including in post-secondary, which would then enable more dual enrollment opportunities. And so if we can do that, then geography doesn't necessarily have to play as big a role, and transportation wouldn't have to be the barrier that it often is.
So true, so true. And just reimagining that the physical space is something that districts are going to be grappling with as well. Thanks for calling that out. Okay, this is our last question, and we'll start with Jayme. What is driving you forward as you look to the next school year?
Brenda, I'm so excited to collaborate with other educational leaders in person, debrief our learnings of the past year and year and a half, and share best practices and innovation strategies, just like we're doing here today and this week at NAF Next. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Eric, what's driving you forward?
Yes, thank you. I think continued opportunities to improve. We've certainly learned a lot in the past year and a half, and it's exciting to think that so many people are looking at education in a new light and trying to figure out what are the best lessons that we can continue to use, and what can we eliminate that no longer serves us, and the possibility of experiencing new innovations that we haven't thought of yet. Recently read an ACTE article about high quality CTE during COVID. And I think people, based on that article, are really trying to reimagine what education can look like. And that's definitely exciting. And then I would say work-based learning. Obviously, the pandemic affected so many areas in our lives beyond just education, and it certainly affected the labor market. And the immediate result in this past month or two has been a boom in the number of employers who are looking for workers now, and that's definitely evident in the job board that we have up for students. And that could change soon enough, but for now, I think it can be a tremendous opportunity for many of our students looking for that first work experience. So I'm hopeful our work-based learning numbers will rebound dramatically over the next year, and so I'm really looking forward to that.
Awesome. And Elizabeth, you have the last word here. What's driving you forward as you look to next school year?
Thank you, Brenda. So I'm excited about the changes that are coming, and I know that the changes we've already experienced have probably been the biggest that are going to happen in our professional career. But I'm excited about where education is going to go after this. just to echo what Eric was saying, you know, I see the new things, you know, that can come from this that are positive. People are paying attention to teachers. People are paying attention to the content. And I think that's very promising. I'm also motivated by the excitement of the teachers and students to be unified again. You know, I realized for myself, I took so for granted my loud classroom and the busy hallways, and you know, this year was complete opposite of that, and it was just quiet, and I'm looking forward to, you know, being with all my kids and telling my class to lower their voices, and you know, telling the kids in the hallway to keep it moving. So I'm excited about that, and I'm just looking forward to a normal school year.
Yeah. And I'm excited for all of you as you prepare to return to face-to-face learning in the fall. I would like to express my gratitude to you. So great to have just a terrific panel sharing from your experiences, your challenges, advice, and thank you for even just the excitement that you have for what's next. We appreciate your leadership during this time. You certainly did it with grace and with our students at the top of your mind. And so again, to our NAF Nation, please join me in giving them another round of applause.